Other than a game-winning buzzer beater, a powerful slam dunk is the most spectacular way to score a basket in the NBA. A rim-shattering jam creates so much emotion and brings crowds to their feet, and that's why dunks have a permanent spot on every top 10 highlight reel. Here, we made a list of the most powerful, most athletic, and most disrespectful dunkers of each NBA decade. 1950s, George Mikan. George Mikan was the first big NBA star and the most dominant player of the earliest NBA era. He won 5 NBA championships in the late 40s and 50s, plus 2 more when the league wasn't even named the NBA yet. Mikan also won 4 scoring and 2 rebounding titles, and at the time of his retirement, he was the all-time leading scorer. Because of his dominance, Mikan was nicknamed Mr. Basketball and was the key figure in the promotion of the NBA in the early days of the league. At 6'10" and 250 pounds, he was one of the biggest people on the planet back in those days, and was the first person to dunk the ball in a game, even though his dunks didn't occur very often. 1960s, Elgin Baylor. Elgin Baylor is arguably the greatest loser in NBA history. He played in 8 finals and lost all of them, including 7 losses against Bill Russell's Celtics. But it's hard to blame him for those losses, because Elgin was truly a spectacular player and the first real aerial threat from the wing. The 6'5" small forward made 27.4 points per game over a 14-year career, which is the 3rd best scoring average in history, behind only MJ and Wilt. Baylor's 61 points in the 5th game of the 1962 NBA Finals is still the best finals performance ever. Due to his supreme athleticism, Baylor was also a phenomenal rebounder, grabbing 13.6 rebounds per game, which is the 11th best all-time mark, a remarkable feat for a 6'5" player. Elgin made scoring look easy and was the best one-on-one player of his era. He was quick, strong, with great body control once he got airborne, with a leaping ability that kept him in the air longer than his opponents. Baylor was also strong enough to finish through contact, and that cocktail of skills turned him into the first spectacular dunker in NBA history, who paved the way for some other people on this list. Honorable mention goes to Wilt Chamberlain, who could dunk the ball with ease, but still often preferred to lay it down and score hook shots, simply because dunking was boring to him and he wanted to get points in a variety of ways. 1970s, Julius Erving. Mark Zuckerberg wasn't the first guy to think of social media, but he made it popular. George Gervin wasn't the first guy to do a finger roll in the NBA, but he's the guy who's most known for it. And when it comes to dunking, Julius Erving wasn't the pioneer, but he made the slam dunk famous and turned it into the widespread offensive weapon it is today. Dr. J had enormous hands, one of the biggest in NBA history, and he could palm a basketball with ease. Paired with his 6'7" frame, long wingspan, and springs in his legs, Erving started to use the slam dunk as a tactic not to get blocked by the opponents. And because he was dunking further away than anybody else before him, and because he was doing it more often than anybody, he became the most attractive and most famous player of the 70s. Dr. J was the winner of the first slam dunk contest, which happened in 1976, while Erving still played with the red, white, and blue ball of the ABA. Doc dunked the ball from the free throw line, which secured him a win over famous dunkers of that era, most notably David Skywalker Thompson. Honorable mention also goes to the Hawk, Connie Hawkins, and Darryl Dawkins, the Chocolate Thunder. Dawkins got his nickname because of his thunderous dunks, especially his 1979 assault on the rim that brought down the entire basket and shattered the backboard, causing a 90-minute delay. 1980s, Dominique Wilkins. Dominique Wilkins was a 6'8" small forward with a 42-inch vertical, which earned him the nickname Human Highlight Film. Nick was dunking like he was on some kind of personal vendetta tour against all the rims across the league. He was throwing it down with so much power and tenacity that regularly brought crowds to their feet. His trademark dunk was the windmill, which he completed with one or both hands, and it kept the basket shaking even after the opponents inbounded the ball back in play. Nick was one half of the most spectacular duo to ever compete in a slam dunk contest. He and Michael Jordan were the 2 most gifted flyers ever to play, and they appeared together in 2 slam dunk contests. Wilkins prevailed over the rookie Jordan in 1985, but Jordan returned the favor in 1988 in Chicago in one of the most spectacular and most controversial dunk contests ever, where many people believed that Wilkins was robbed of the victory. Some other notable rim crushers from the 80s include Larry Nance, Tom Chambers, Clyde the Glide Drexler, and Darrell Griffith, who they called Mr. Duncanstein. 1990s, Michael Jordan. Sometimes I dream that he is me, said the famous Gatorade commercial, just confirming the fact that everybody wanted to be like Mike. Mike had plenty of nicknames, including Black Jesus, but the most famous one is Air, which he earned due to his insane gravity-defying hang time. Jordan was arguably the best athlete ever to play basketball, with the otherworldly 48-inch vertical, muscular body, and enormous hands like Dr. J. This Superman-like ability enabled him to dunk the ball easier than anybody else before him because nobody else could fly in the air like MJ. Jordan's rich portfolio of slam dunks includes some of the most famous plays in NBA history. The aforementioned 88 dunk contest slam from the free throw line, baseline dunk against the Knicks over Patrick Ewing, or the finger wag revenge on Mutombo. Jordan's hammers were artistic and brutal at the same time, and he posterized almost every big man in the league in the late 80s and 90s. Honorable mention goes to Scottie Pippen, Isaiah Ryder, and Shawn Kemp, who was arguably the most vicious power dunker ever and who wanted to embarrass his opponents and dunk them into the ground together with the ball. 2000s, Vince Carter. Vinsanity, Air Canada. Half man, half amazing. Those are all the nicknames that described the filthy aerial feats of one Mr. Vince Carter. Carter's dunks were just plain brutal, and he's considered the greatest in-game dunker ever to play. Vince had it all: great height, supreme athleticism, and hang time, with strong hands that brought harm to every rim in the league. He casually threw down windmills and tomahawks in traffic like the defense wasn't even there. Facials, 360s, behind the back, double clutch, you name it, Vince had dunked it. The homicide of Frederick Weiss at the 2000 Olympics is still almost unanimously considered the most brutal dunk ever, and the slam dunk contest in the 2000 All-Star Game is still believed to be the most dominant slam dunk exhibition ever. The 2000s were the era of some of the greatest dunkers in history. Shaq was the most dominant player we've ever seen, and in the early aughts, nobody could stop him from rocking the rim when he got the ball deep in the paint. Jason Richardson could do almost everything that Vince Carter did, and he dazzled the crowds with spectacular jams, including 2 consecutive slam dunk contest victories. Kobe, T-Mac, D-Wade, and Dwight Howard also deserve to be mentioned here. 2010, LeBron James. LeBron was a spectacular dunker ever since his high school days, and he continued to throw down violent slams when he entered the NBA and his first stint with Cleveland. But in my opinion, his best dunks didn't happen until he started playing for Miami, when he bulked up and reached the peak of his athletic ability. During the heatless era, LeBron was just an unstoppable force of nature, a freight train that couldn't be slowed down once he gained a head of steam. Some of his most famous and most disrespectful jams happened during his South Beach days, including the Jason Terry dunk, the alley-oop from D-Wade, posterization of Paul Millsap, and off-the-window slam with the left hand on Christmas against the Lakers. Blake Griffin maybe wasn't as fast when approaching the rim as LeBron, but boy, could he get up and throw it down just as fiercely. Blake was the author of some of the most humiliating posterizations I've ever seen, namely the dunks on Timofey Mozgov, Kendrick Perkins, and Pau Gasol. And just when Blake Griffin started losing his athleticism, 2 other impressive dunkers stepped to the scene. In 2016, Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon brought the spectacle and tried to outduel each other in the best slam dunk contest since Jordan and Nick in 1988. Other notable slam dunk artists from the last decade include Russell Westbrook, pre-injury Derrick Rose, and Giannis Antetokounmpo.